Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Andrews University Association of Filipino Pastors, 30 Days of Testimony. We are in Marathon of Great Filipino and American Speakers in America, Season 1. You know what, my friend? We have one of the best speaker in America, but he lives now in Canada. International speaker. He is one of the selected few to join us in these 30 days. Our speaker is a doctor in ministry by profession. He started first year university at PUC in Baeza campus in 1966. He started first year in University of Philippine Union College in Baeza campus in 1966. But after a year, he transferred to University of the East to study pre-medicine. While at University of the East, he got married at the age of 18. Because UAE was farther from where he lived, Manila Center University was closer. So he transferred and continued study of medicine at Manila Center University. But he applied into migrate in Canada. While they're in Canada, they continue his study online through webinars, periodic personal attendance studies in Michigan, Loma Linda in California, through Medical School of Integrated and Natural Science until he received a certification, diploma, and degree achieving a title of Missionary Natural Doctor. This doctor is amazing. You know why? He come up this ministry a pre-buffet every Saturday between 12 to 2 p.m. And you know what? After that buffet, it's free food. So they have also a Bible study between 2 to 3 p.m. From one Catholic family of 7 who were first members were baptized. Their church, they grow to about 80 members within about 2 years. That's amazing. It's amazing. When they had the Ontario Conference organized as a branch Sabbath school. This doctor is a God-gifted missionary natural doctor because God gave him some ideas, innovative ideas that some people think it's impossible. But this doctor is, when God inspired him to do things, he do it and he never give up. Let's continue on his profile. He continued his ministry with his wife, and they're preaching at places when they're invited to Canada, US, Mexico, Caribbean, and in the Philippines. In their last 2 evangelistic seminar for 7 days from December 1 to 11 in 2020, where God inspired him to move, they were baptized more than 4,000 souls in the Philippines. With God's help, with Pastor Kidet, who is the Western Mindanao Conference president, they were received those more than 4,000 baptized in the last 2 evangelistic seminar. Because he's a good working, hard working, he started as a door-to-door salesman. Imagine this guy, started as a door-to-door salesman. I can relate this one to myself too. Became a salesman in school. But this doctor, he tried to do a lot of things. He do also a managerial positions in a company. He became a general sales guy. So he knows about the sales. So if you want to learn about sales, maybe you need to contact him. And a manager, one of the 17, the Oriental Vice President in Canada. After 2 years in real estate, in 1988, the real estate sales procedure were converted to computers. He retired in the early job in 1988, about 32 years ago, at the age of 40. He was hired as the branch educations about Colliers Encyclopedia. 1 president, 17 vice president in Canada. He was became stressful of his job and he got a heart attack. But God have loved him very much. Right now, he's healthy, strong, and he can deliver if you can give him like 5 hours or 10 hours of testimony. The company converted to computers, and one of the big accomplishment of Dr. Noel Frias, his oldest daughter, Gladys, finished a medical course. She is a gynecologist with Kaiser in California, USA. Her second daughter graduated a marketing course at Andrews University, but his husband is working as a lucrative job as a computer engineer. His third son is graduate an information technology course. They now work as broker for Remax. My friend, tonight it's a battle of Manny Pacquiao and Ricky Hatton. But our speaker tonight is one of the best speaker in America, Canada, and Philippines. The person who is an evangelist, a doctor, a missionary doctor. This guy, you never heard it before. And no other speaker we have the same title, have the same experience, have the same God's calling. So please welcome the Excellency, the most outstanding speaker in Canada. Please welcome Dr. Noel Frias.
Thank you so much, Pastor Abatayo, for that. What can I say? I've never been introduced that way before. So while I was listening to your introduction, I had a small candy in my mouth and I almost choked because I swallowed it and I felt like hiding in my pants because the listeners here might be disappointed when they listen to me. You know, I'm not really that good speaker, but I thank the Lord that He has inspired you to form this organization of great Filipino speakers in America. And I'm really honored to be named one of them, although I did not feel that I deserve it. So I thank the Lord. And before I share, and I was going to say, there's nothing for me to say anymore. My task this evening is supposed to give a testimony about myself and how I ended up working for the Lord. But Pastor Abatayo gave all that information already. So maybe I don't really have to say anything anymore, but I'm going to try. I might be able to still share some more that he might not have mentioned during his introduction. But before I do so, I would like to invite you to bow your heads with me as we seek the Lord in prayer. Father God, thank you so much for inspiring and enabling Pastor Abatayo to form and organize these Filipino pastors here in North America who have a passion to work for you. Dear Father, my task this evening is to share or to give testimony about myself. I pray, dear Father, that while I do that, I pray that you will hide me behind the cross so that it will not be me who will be honored this evening, but it will be you. Forgive us from where we have fallen short of your glory. This I ask in Jesus' holy name, I pray. Amen. Amen. Now, before I start, I would like to tell you, let me tell you first a short story. During the Second World War, there was a family in a small town of Ligao, Albay, in the Philippines. And when the Japanese came to occupy the Philippines, the Japanese who were assigned in that part of the country happened to build their garrison or headquarters right across the street from this family lived. And his family, the head of the family, was a school teacher, and he had about a dozen children. So he had so many children. But while this Japanese garrison was there, the head officer, the top officer of the garrison, started to notice the family, and he started to eye on their eldest daughter, who was about 15 years old. And this, I don't know if he was a general or whatever he was, lieutenant, but this top officer of the garrison started to develop a liking to that 15-year-old teenager daughter of this family. And so he started to be nice to them, friendly, and he would supply them with whatever they need, food or whatever, and try to give them the protection. Of course, they were close to the garrison. That's why there's probably enough protection right there. But the parents of this daughter were worried because they did not approve, or they did not like the idea that this Japanese officer will take their daughter, because he was telling the parents that after the war, or when he is recalled back to Japan, he's going to take that daughter of this family to Japan and marry her. And anyway, these parents continued praying day and night that this thing will not happen, because they did not really trust the Japanese at that time. They did not know much about them and so on. So to make the story short, this Japanese officer was assigned to extend the task of the war to Australia, and he was assigned to go to Australia together with some group of soldiers, and he went with 3 warships that went to Australia. As soon as this family of this young girl found out that he left to go to Australia, they noticed that there was also another Filipino guy who was about 24 years old, who was eyeing on this teenager. And so they tried to encourage this 24-year-old guy to marry their daughter, so that at least he can be freed from the Japanese, and to take her away. And they also planned to go away and hide in some mountains themselves, because they know that when the Japanese officer will come back, he's going to return to look for this teenager in that home. But as the 3 warships, Japanese warships, were on the way to Australia, the Americans bombed those warships, and the Japanese died during that bombing. So the family were sort of relieved, but they continued hiding from the Japanese anyway. And so this young couple were married, and eventually they decided to have a child. Even during the war, they wanted to have a child. So they had the first child. The first child that they had died, because probably of malnutrition, because the mother was very young, and there's too much stress and running away and hiding from the Japanese because of the war. And so they prayed again for another child. But the second child that arrived, or that came out, died also. A few months after they were born, these 2 children, they both died. And so the father, because he really wanted to have a child, he kept on praying. He even asked the help of the officers of the church, local church that was nearby, and they prayed for another child. And this time, the prayer of the father, of the parents, were really earnest and sincere, and they said, "Lord, please give us another child. We want a child who will live, not one who will die. And we are going to dedicate this child to you," he said. "And if this child is born, make him live, please. And whatever happens, if we dedicate him to you, but even if it turns out to not to be a problem, or be a problem to our family, or it does not turn out to be a good boy, we are not going to complain anymore. See? So the mother eventually got pregnant again. And when she got pregnant, she had a third child. Maybe we can put this into the. So I'd like to. I prepared some kind of illustration as I for me to explain this. So they had a third child. Let me just find first the. Anyway, all right. So this is the story about the Japanese here. This is the couple that got married, and the third child arrived. When the third child arrived, the father he was so disappointed because the third child that arrived, he was also lifeless. He was not crying, and his color was pale and blue, and the hands were open. You know, when the hands are open, that's not a good sign. But during that delivery, the father invited some officers of the church who were available to go in another room and pray for this child that was supposed to be born. So what the nurse did, because the child was lifeless, she held the child in her 2 feet, I mean upside down, and started punking the lower back bottom of the child and other parts of the body just to stimulate uh, circulation of the blood in case. So as she was doing that, suddenly the color of the child started to change, and he started to cry. And let me tell you, my friends, that that child was me. I was the child that was born lifeless, and I was made alive, I'm sure, with the power of the Holy One. Anyway, they had another child after that, which is a girl, and she also died. So I am in the middle of two children ahead of me who both died, and a fourth, and I survived, and then the fourth one also died. That is the story of my life. Now, as I was growing up, according to my parents, I was very sickly. I was always being brought to the hospital because they always thought I was going to die. But as I grew up, when I reached adult elementary and started high school, I started to become healthy. But as I was growing up, even as a young boy, I always had wishes that I would like to realize ahead of me when I grow older. My wishes were three. I wished that when I grow old and find a wife, I would like a wife that will be godly, who will walk with me to the uh, aisle or to the throne of grace of God. And secondly, I always wish that I will have successful children. And the third is that I also wish that I will be able to retire early and spend the rest of my life working for the Lord. Anyway, this is what happened to my wishes. I found a beautiful Christian lady who is prayerful, and she's with me until now. We've been together for many, many years already. As a matter of fact, we already celebrated 50 years anniversary. And also, I had three children, and they're all successful. And Pastor Rabatayo already introduced them to you. One is a doctor, the other one is a marketing director who's doing part-time job of home stager, and the other one is a real estate broker. And I've also wished to, we have now 9 grandchildren, and I've also wished to be able to retire early. And at the age of 40 years old, I was able to retire. And I don't probably have to tell you how old I am, but anyway, we celebrated. We're 75 years old, so it's okay. Anyway, this is a photo of our family when we just arrived in Canada. Now, I find that my life is very mysterious because I find that in my life, these two forces, the good and evil, are fighting very hard for my soul. Whenever I wish of something bad, I always get it. Whenever I wish of something good, I always get it all the time myself also. That is my experience. So I know that these two forces, the force of good and evil, God and Satan, they're really fighting intensely for my life, for my soul. Now, but when we came to Canada, when we arrived in Canada, I had a prayer. I prayed to the Lord because I've experienced how hard it was to live poorly in the Philippines. And we are 8 in the family, and that's also a big amount, a big number of children. So I prayed to the Lord. I said, Lord, please help me. I don't like to be poor. I would like to have a good, I'd like to have a stable family. And at least if you bless me financially, if I become stable here, because we migrated to Canada, I will start working for you at the age of when I reach 30 years old, if I am stable at that time. So that was my prayer. But before that, let me just tell you what happened. Of course, I got married young, according to it was mentioned by Pastor Batayo. I got married at the age of 18, and while going to school, I had to find a job because we had a baby at that already. And so, as I was looking for a job, I saw this advertisement of a big American company. It says, "No experience necessary. American company expanding in the Philippines." And they will provide the training. And I applied, and I was hired also. And I worked for that company because I was a good worker. My promotion was rapid. As a matter of fact, the manager of the company was an American guy, married to a Japanese, and he decided to expand his business in Tokyo, Japan, because that's where he lived at that time. And so he tried to get the help of some Filipinos. So he took uh, two Filipinos altogether ahead of me. He took one Filipino manager to start to help him with his office in Tokyo. But because of the hardship of language, like if you go to Japan about the 1970s, you will never see an English sign anywhere, and nobody speak English. All the Japanese doesn't speak English, except if you meet some Americans or some Inisi, but very few. So it's very hard for someone coming from the Philippines to work there. So the first Filipino guy that he took to Japan to work there, he gave up. Within 3 months, he gave up and went back to the Philippines. And then they took another one, and the same thing happened. And I thought this might be an opportunity for me to travel because I was a very adventurous person. I went and applied to the American manager of ours, and I said, "Why didn't you try me? Take me to Japan and let me help you out with your business operation there." He was hesitant. He did not want to accept me because he said, "You don't have enough experience." But I said, "Accept me, take me to Japan, and if I fail, if I come back within 3 months, like the other two that you have brought there, I will pay you back all your expenses for me and taking me there." And so he tried, he did it. But let me tell you that I did not want to go back to the Philippines anymore. I did very well in Tokyo. And as a matter of fact, I tried to apply to become a permanent resident of Japan. But Japan was not accepting foreigners to become permanent resident, unless I guess you marry a Japanese or something, which I was not planning to do. And so I changed my mind. I said, why don't I immigrate to the United States or Canada instead? And so we did. So we came to Canada. So when we were here in Canada, I made that prayer to the Lord. Lord, please help us become established financially, and if I can afford to support my family, I would like to work for you. I'd like to spend my time just working for you. And so what happened is that within 1 year of our stay in Canada, we were able to buy our first house. You put it back here. This is not the house that we bought, by the way. This is the house that we live in right now. But I just tell you, first year in Canada, we were able to buy a house. And at the age of 25, we had about 20 different houses that we were able to buy, and we were renting them out. They were most of them were single detached homes or houses. And so uh, uh, we were living quite a good life. And I always had these three foundation texts that I based my life on. One was found in Proverbs 3:5-6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path." And the other one was in Isaiah 58:13-14, which says that if you hallow and obey my Sabbath commandment, I will cause you to ride high places, and I will feed you with the heritage of Jacob, because the mouth of God has spoken it. And the third one was Matthew 7:24-27, which says that if you build your house on the rock, the house will stand. But if you build it on the sand, uh, when the storm, the wind come, it will fall down. Now that rock, of course, build it. The rock, symbolizes Jesus. If you build it on Jesus, your home in Jesus, it will stand firm. So I was living by these three, and I had these three verses in my mind all the time, and I would like to live by the inspiration of these three verses that I had. But when I reached 30 years old, I thought I was in the top of my life. I was I was quite successful, and I thought I'm still young to be working for the Lord. So I made a bargain with the God. I said, "Lord, I'm still too young. Is it okay? Can we postpone my working for you when I reach the age of 40?" So I postponed because I'm still too young. Let me just continue on with my life right now. And at the age of 40, I will work for you. Uh, I mean, I will just work for you. So I continued on my life. This is how I looked like at the time. I was in good shape, and I was enjoying life. As I mentioned, whenever I like to do something, whatever I like, whether good or bad, whether it's worldly or spiritual, I always get them. So it seems like I was blessed with whatever I wish for, I'm able to get. So I started associating myself with celebrities just for my good feeling. I have hung around with people like this is a big actor in the Philippines, Fernando Poe Jr., who even ran to become president of the Philippines, and that's his wife there, Susan Roses. This is Romano Castelvi, named to be one of the James Bond of the Philippines during his time, and that's his wife, a movie actress also, big star in the Philippines, Jean Lopez. And I attended some seminars, even seminars that were run by big people like Donald Trump. And whenever I was a member of the Filipino Chamber of Commerce in Toronto, Canada, and whenever some big people from the Philippines, like celebrities, come to visit Canada, they would look for me because I was quite successful. I was driving some nice luxury car, big Cadillac, like the Cadillac of Elvis Presley, and also Mercedes Benz, so on. And so they were calling me to be the one to entertain the big people that are coming from the Philippines. And one of them was Margie Moran. She became a Miss Universe, and I was asked to escort her here in Toronto when she was here, and more people. Here's another Miss Universe here, Yvonne Ryder. And when President Ramos came here, a couple of times I was one of the party who was with him and entertaining him and discussing some important issues about the Philippines and so on. And this is another photo when the megastar from the Philippines, Nora Nor, visited our home. And we also continued to travel. I happened to be employed by that company, international company, and because I was a good worker, I was one of the top managers. They always sent us on 3 vacations per year, all expenses paid by the company, once a year to Europe and 2 times a year in the Caribbean. So I got used to traveling, but sometimes we also went on our own travel, which we paid for ourselves. So this is a photo of our visit to India, and another visit that we did was in Russia. Before the COVID-19, we went to Russia. We went there before, but we repeated our visit there. This is a photo taken in Moscow, in the square there near the palace of the president, and so on. And I had a business that was running called the Abundant Life Travel Business and Social Corporation, so that we can claim our travel expenses in business. That's why it's a travel, it's an Abundant Life travel business. So that was our life. But of course, I reached the age of 40. When I reached the age of 40, that's about in 1988, what happened was that the company, the computers started to take over. And the encyclopedias or the books that our company was publishing, that they were selling, it started to become not popular anymore because the computers came. And so the company has to sell, and the computers took over. And I lost my job. It was very disappointing and very depressing, because from a very good, prestigious income, my income went to zero. But I felt that I can sell anyway, so I took a crash course in real estate, and I became a real estate agent. And I was doing good, and suddenly the company also announced that instead of those thick books that we were using to look at listings and so on, they will convert into computers. So they required all the real estate agents to take a course in computer. And of course, I had no choice. I had to take the course. But when I was taking the course in computer, it wouldn't. I couldn't adjust to it. I couldn't accept it. Probably my mind seemed to be rejecting it. So it was quite embarrassing for me, because even though I was sitting already in front of the class, I always get stuck in the laptop that I was using, and I always have to call the instructor to come, and he would just click it with one finger, and it will solve the problem. So just keep it there, please. So I cannot continue selling real estate when I do not know how to use computers. That's why I decided that maybe I will just quit. I will just stop working. And then I realized, I remember now that I promised the Lord that by the age of 40, I would like to work for him. And I didn't really feel like working for him at the time, because when I was selling real estate, I happened to see this big house that we're staying right now. It has a circular driveway, tennis court, swimming pool, and everything in it. And I knew that that was the dream of my wife. So I decided to buy it myself. But after I bought it, the recession came. And when the recession came, we had other properties that we cannot continue keeping, because the value of the properties went down. And even those tenants in those houses, they lost their jobs, and they cannot afford to pay anymore. So I have no choice. Instead of, if you're a boat and you are overloaded with items, with things, you have to unload, otherwise you will sink. So I decided to unload many of those properties. But God probably knew what was going to happen, because when I bought this property, this big house, somehow I thought maybe I should put it in the name of my wife. So I put it in the name of my wife without my name on it, and we were able to buy it. That's why when the recession came, and I gave back to the bank many of those properties that I cannot chew anymore, I cannot handle with more big mortgages, we were able to keep this house, because the bank cannot take it, because it's in my wife's name. And so what happened, with the recession, I thought we were going to lose this house. But this house, instead of losing it, it continued to gain value. It went up to about, the value of this property we're in right now went up to about more than 700% in value, above the the amount above the price that we bought it for. So from this house, we were able to draw money that kept us going and so on. Now, here, what happened because of so much depression, losing my job with Collier Macmillan, and losing my job as a real estate agent, and then losing so many properties, investment that I worked for so hard because of that depression, that mental torture, depression, and all those stress and so on. I suffered a heart attack. I landed in the hospital with a heart attack. When I was in the hospital, another miracle happened. After a few days, as I was getting better, I told my wife, why didn't you bring my business papers here? I closed the curtain of my room in the intensive care, and I started looking through the papers. I had quite a few people who owed me some money at the time. I started calling them and doing business right there in the hospital. And suddenly, a Christian nurse, opened the curtain, and she saw me with all kinds of papers in my bed. And she gave me about a 15 minutes lecture. She told me, why do you go to that? You just suffered a heart attack, and now you have all those papers again. She said. And then there was a Bible sitting at the window pane. And she looked at the Bible and she said, how about that book there? Have you opened that book while you were here? Honestly, when I was there in the hospital for a few days already, I saw that book, the Bible, but I never touched it. I never read it. And she said, if I were you, I will throw all those papers away. I will get rid of them, and I will read that book there. Because those papers will kill you, while that book will keep you alive. Now, that statement of that nurse hit me so hard. So that when I went back home, of course, the doctor told me that I have to wear a Holter monitor even if I'm home. So I was wearing this Holter monitor for about 1 month, but I spent my time studying and reading the Bible. And when I thought that I was already recovering enough, I told my wife I would like to go to the Middle East, to Israel, and walk where Jesus walked, and see if I can really believe all these stories in the Bible. So that's what we did. We planned a trip to go to Israel, and we went to Israel. We landed in Tel Aviv, and we went to the places in Jerusalem, to those places that where Jesus walked. And when we were in Israel, I had revelation from God there. We were visiting different places where they were continue to excavate places where there were cities before, but because of time, wars, and corrosion, they were covered by dirt, and they were excavating them in order to find some kind of things from the former civilization in the cities that were buried. And then in one of the sites, the bell rang, and I went to see what the announcement was, and they found a rock with a curved image of Pontius Pilate. And but I was able to find a picture of this rock, but not with the image of Pontius Pilate. And there's the name under the image, the photo of Pontius Pilate. So I said, Pontius Pilate. You see, when I studied the Bible, I found that Pontius Pilate was in the Bible, but his name is not known, it's not written in history book that he existed. But there it was proven that he existed because they found the track when I was there, right in front of my very eyes. And after that visit in Israel, we went to Sinai. And I've always dreamed of being able to see that Mount Sinai, where Moses walked on top of the mountain to talk to God and to receive his commandments. But the Mount Sinai is a very tall mountain. And so we decided to go, we went there anyway, and I decided I would like to see the top of Mount Sinai. Now, as we were walking towards the top of Mount Sinai, we saw a rest house near the slope, just close to the not even very far yet in our journey. And my wife said, I don't think I can climb up there. And so she decided that she's not going to climb up. But we had a companion, Jesse and LV Cardona. And the wife also said, I'm going to join Betty. I don't want to climb up that mountain also. And even Jesse himself, he is hesitant. He seemed to not to like to go up there. But I pleaded with Jess, the husband. He was a male nurse. And I told him, Jess, why don't you come with me and walk with me to the top of Mount Sinai? But Jess said, you just suffered a heart attack and you would like to walk to the top of that mountain. You see how tall that mountain is? I said, no, that's why I want you to come with me, to guide me and to help me. In case I find difficult, if I cannot go up, at least you can help me come down, and so on. So Jesse was persuaded and he walked with me. And the steps were very steep. And this is part of it, that we walked and we were able to reach the top of Mount Sinai. And we were able to see that chapel that was built there on top. So anyway, I was happy that I accomplished that also. It was another test that God was helping me, because suffering from a heart attack, you could not imagine me climbing all the way to the top of Mount Sinai. But I was able to do it with God's help. And then we decided to go to Egypt. And when we were in Egypt, God gave me another revelation. Like when we visited the museum in Egypt, we saw a big rock as high as the ceiling. Then there were Egyptian characters on them. I did not understand what they said or what they meant. So I was curious anyway. I asked the tourist guide, what is this rock? And what is this, by the way? And he said, that is the history of Egypt. And then he said, where did you find it? They found it in the deepest part, one deep part of the Red Sea, he said. So, because I cannot understand what it says, I looked for a piece of stick, and I told the tourist guide, I'm going to point some parts of this history of Egypt, and please translate it to me in English. So I point from one place to another. And when I pointed to the bottom of it, he read it to me and said, and the soldiers of Pharaoh pursued the children of God. Oh, really? I know that story in the Bible. When the soldiers of Pharaoh went after the children of Israel, children of God. Remember when in the Bible, when the sea was divided into two so that the Israelites can go through? So I said, where did that happen, where the soldiers of Pharaoh pursued the children of God? He said, it happened in the Red Sea, he said. And I said, who was the Pharaoh at that time? Who was the emperor at that time of Egypt? And said, it was Ramses II. So it coordinated with what I've read in the Bible. During the time of Ramses II, after the plagues of Egypt, the Israelites were released, and then the Pharaoh tried to pursue them with his soldiers. And so I said, wow, this is really interesting. So I said, you have some, just keep it there. You have some mummies of those emperors, great people of Egypt. You preserve their bodies even after they die, so you can still have them. And I said, do you have the mummy or the preserved body of Ramses II? And he said, yes, we have it there. So he showed me where the mummies were. So I said to my wife and our companions, do you like to come with me and we look at the body of Ramses II? They didn't want to come. So I alone went there, and I saw the body of Ramses II. He was a dark man, a Nubian, a very tall guy, and that was Ramses II. So I said, these are parts of the stories that I have read in the Bible, and a few more other things, but I'm only mentioning a few. Anyway, when we returned to Toronto, I was really gung-ho, all energized to start working for the Lord. And I did not know what to do. So I talked to my wife, and I said, you know what we should do? We should advertise in the paper to get people to attend Bible study. So we advertised in the Balita Filipino newspaper, The advertisement says like this: free buffet every Saturday between 12 and 2, and 2 to 3 Bible study. And so come meet new friends, adapt a family, especially if you're new in Canada. And somehow God was answering our prayer. And people started to phone in, and we started giving Bible studies, and the people that were phoning in to attend or to join our buffet and attend our Bible study classes, they haven't heard about the Sabbath, they haven't heard about the Adventist movement. And in this picture, for example, these are some of the few that we have brought to this group, to this church, except one here, this guy here, that's Andaya. He's now a doctor, by the way. He went to school and studied. He's now working in California, a graduate of Loma Linda University. But all of these other people, they haven't heard about the Sabbath, they haven't heard about the Adventist, but they were all baptized in the church. And then, we continued on with our studies, and this is another group. In this group here, there's only one couple here who is non-Adventist, this couple here. But all the rest were non-Adventist, and they were all converted from outside. They haven't heard about the Saturday Sabbath keeping, but they left the camp where they were, and they joined this church with truthful teachings of God to keep the Sabbath holy. So they became Sabbath keepers. And this one here, they were all, they were all non-Adventists before, who joined the church also. But we had baptism one after the other. I know it's not because of me, it's because of God's power, and I was just being used to guide them to Him. And this is another photo of our group here. And after 1 year, we started our group study in 2004. By 2005, we were organized as a group by the conference, Ontario Conference, and we celebrated our first year anniversary in 2005. And this is a photo of our group. As you can see, it's a big group. Within 1 year, we're able to put together this group as a church. And that was our old house before. As you can see there, we had a big house also before, and we had an enclosed swimming pool. I covered the water, the swimming pool, and made a reinforced flooring there, and even the walls, and we made a church out of it. So, but as we were running the church, I said, like it was quite hard. And the doctor told me that do not do a very stressful job, because you might come back to the hospital and so on. You had a problem before. So you should take it easy, he said. So I thought that running a church is quite stressful for us. First of all, I was not an ordained pastor. And I said that, and it was quite costly because we were financing the church also, all the expenses, electricity and everything. And we were not asking for any donation from anybody. So anyway, I decided, why don't we give, I decided that in order for the good of the members, in order for them to be nurtured properly, spiritually, maybe I should just give them to the conference. So I gave the whole group to the conference, and they are still running as a church as of today, but they are now bearing a different name. It used to be Abundant Life Ministry. Now, my wife and I decided after that we should just continue working for the Lord as revivalists and evangelists. So wherever we are invited, we go and preach God's gospel of love, of everlasting love. So I was able to preach in Caribbean, preach in Mexico, wherever we're invited, but most of the time in the Philippines. As a matter of fact, Pastor Batayo mentioned about our crusade in the Philippines. When this COVID started, we cannot, because we were going every year to the Philippines, baptizing hundreds, through the work of the Holy Spirit. But this time, because of the COVID, we have thought of doing our ministry through Zoom. And so we organized a Zoom evangelistic seminar last March for 7 days, and in about May, another 6 days crusade. And as a result, based from those two crusades, we have baptized over 4,000 people. That's what Pastor Baltayo said. The first one was about 1,500 plus, and the second was about almost 3,000 were baptized. I don't have the right figures, but you can see it. If you look through my Facebook backward, you will see there that the number of baptisms is on over 4,000 people. Anyway, so I told you that I had three wishes before. One was to meet a wife who will walk with me to the kingdom of God, and I found that. To have successful children, and I have them. And the third one is to be able to retire early. Those were all accomplished with the help of God. But then, with all this work that we're doing, with dedication, with the passion that we have for the Lord, my fourth wish is to be able to meet Jesus when he comes and be one of the citizens of his eternal kingdom that he will establish after that, after he returns. So when I started praying for that, Lord, I would like to find a way. I would like to really be convinced that you are really the Messiah and you are going to help us and you're going to save us. And when I keep on praying about that, this a prophecy which I never understood before started to become clear to me. And one of the prophecy that was given was in Daniel 9:24, which says that 70 weeks are determined in order for the Messiah to be anointed, for Jesus to be introduced, to be revealed. And so 70 weeks, that prophecy was given, instruction was given to Daniel. If it was a literal 70 weeks, that would only be about 1 year and a half. And Daniel lived many more years after that, and he never even realized, he never even saw the Messiah. So I studied it, and it says in the Bible that when it is a prophecy, 1 day is equivalent to 1 year. You can find that in Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:6. So if I counted 1 day for a year, so it says 70 weeks, 70 times 7 days in 1 week, that's 490, 49, 490. So in 490 years, after the building of Jerusalem, the building of Jerusalem, the Messiah will be introduced. That's how I understood it, and that's what the prophecy meant anyway. So what happened was that Artaxerxes, he made a decree to rebuild Jerusalem, and it was rebuilt in 457 BC. So 457 BC. So the start of rebuilding the Jerusalem was the decree to rebuild Jerusalem was in 457, and if you count 490 years from that time on, 457, that 457 and the counting before Christ was downward and then 1 and then go upward, AD. If you count 457 and then let's see what happened in 3rd of April AD 33 AD, Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross. So 33 AD. So I have added 457 plus 33. I came to the answer of 490. And what happened in 490? Jesus Christ was crucified, and he was introduced, he was anointed as the Messiah. And of course, on the 70th year, on the 490th year, that week was interrupted, because he was crucified. But he was crucified 33 AD, which counted to exactly 490. So there's no doubt that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. I know that many people do not believe that. Some people say that Jesus is just a human being, a prophet. But the Bible says he was revealed right here in this prophecy. But this prophecy was only a part of a twofold prophecy. The other prophecy was a longer prophecy, and it consisted of 2,300 years. Okay. It says in 2000, it says, this prophecy said that was mentioned here, also Daniel 8:14. It says that in 2,300 days, which is 2,300 years, the sanctuary will be cleansed. And so I counted again this sanctuary will be cleansed anyway. That's what they said. Why will it be cleansed? Because before Jesus left, he warned his disciples and his followers. He warned his disciples that when I depart, wolves will come in, grievous wolves will come into this church and teach you things that I did not teach. My teachings, my truthful teachings will be buried into the ground. So watch out. So did it happen? Let's see if it happened. Now, after Jesus Christ, in the first 100 years, like from the birth of Jesus Christ all the way until he went back to heaven, until 100 AD, the truthful teachings was the one being observed by most people. Okay, genuine truthful teachings. But in 321 AD, these teachings started to be corrupted because there were teachings that were introduced which could not be verified in the Bible. One was in 321 AD, Sunday worship was introduced. In 337 AD, images were introduced. In 336 AD, rosary was introduced. In 394 AD, Mass was introduced. 538 AD, the Pope claimed that he is infallible, that he cannot do anything wrong, he cannot commit sin. And in 590 AD, purgatory was introduced, the teaching where if somebody died, just keep on praying for him and he will go to heaven if you have enough prayer, and if you don't have enough prayer, he'll fall back, he'll go to hell. And so the teachings, the truthful teachings of God was really corrupted. It was buried to the ground. That is why in history, and then in 1230 AD, confession to the priest. And to say, if you have committed sin, you confess to the priest, and the priest, who is also sinful himself, will be able to give you absolute forgiveness for your sins. To me, it didn't make sense because the priest is sinful himself. How can he remove the sin of somebody? And in 1299, the Bible was forbidden to be read. And this period was called the Dark Ages because there was no, the emperors, Nero and all those other emperors, pagan emperors, they killed the people who were caught reading a Bible, and they burned all the Bibles, and there was almost no Bible that was able to surface. And those who had the Bible, they were hiding in the mountains. And so they call it the Dark Ages because they cannot verify what the truth was, what is good and bad, basically, according to teachings of God, because there were no Bibles to read. So that was the Dark Ages. But God promised that he's going in Isaiah 58:12. He said that even if the truth is buried to the ground, he's going to raise up repairers of the breach to bring back God's truthful teachings. And so repairers of the breach were brought up. From 1378, Reformation started. In 1378, the Waldenses who were hiding in the mountains and they had some Bible, they started to come down to the cities and started to teach the Bibles again. And in 1400, John Huss was able to uncover the teachings of obedience to God, and he organized the Hussite movement. And in 1517, justification was uncovered in his study by Martin Luther, and he organized a group called the Lutherans. And in 1528, Calvin was able to uncover the teachings of grace in the Bible, and he started a group called the Presbyterians. And then 1738, sanctification started by Wesley, and also in 1792, baptism. They realized that the way they were baptism, sprinkling, and so, which were not taught by Jesus himself, not taught by through his example, it was discovered that you have to do it by immersion. So this was uncovered also, and by William, and he started a group called the Baptist. And in 1831, they have uncovered the teachings that Jesus Christ is going to come again, to return, so that the second coming And in 1843, they were able to uncover one of the last teachings that were hidden, which was the keeping of the seventh day, Saturday Sabbath. So in 1843, all the truthful teachings of the Lord were uncovered. Now, you see, if you are in the dark and a light is shown to you, a bright light is shown to you, it will hurt your eyes. So God did it in a way that he showed the light gradually. That's why there's a period of reformation, making the people, the followers of Jesus, uncover the truthful teachings little by little through this reformation. And so the last reformer, according to history, were the reformers that came out in 1843, and that is the Adventist movement. So if you look at that, if you look back to this prophecy here, from the rebuilding of Jerusalem in 457 BC to 1843, if you add up 457 plus 1843, if you add it up, you'll arrive at a number of 2,300. 2,300. So they said the sanctuary will be cleansed 2,300. So this church that was organized in 1843, this is the true church of God, which he enlightened me that I should be in. And I am a member of this church, the true church of God that teaches all the truthful teachings of the Lord. You see, as you can see here, so the Dark Ages were between 476 to 1000 AD, at least for 500 years. No wonder why most of the people are not keeping this 7-day Saturday Sabbath, because they did not have Bible to verify, and people just continued on with what they were able, that was handed down from them from their ancestors. So they became they took the teachings, hidden teachings of Sunday worship, and one generation to the other, and they probably do not even read the Bible. So if you see, the last reformer was the Seventh-day Adventist movement, and these are the signs of the true Church of God. It did not exist as an official organization between AD 538 to 1798. It arose after 1798, after the Dark Ages, and it formed during the early 1840s, and it sprang out as the last reformer in 1843 during the period of Reformation. It kept the 10 commandments of God, including the fourth commandment, which is keeping the 7-day Sabbath holy. It has a gift of prophecy. It is worldwide missionary church, working in 220 of the 236 countries of the world. But you know, now it's working all over the world now. You know, Jesus said in Matthew that when this gospel is preached as a witness to all nations, then Jesus Christ will come. So it is now being preached to all over the world now. There's no nation now that is hidden from the preaching of the gospel, because it's all over the internet now. With the invention of the internet, the Zoom, the YouTube, Facebook, and so on, the gospel is being preached all over the world. And it teaches and preaches Jesus' great 3-point message of revelation, salvation. That's why there are many people now that are being used by God to preach the gospel. If you look at the YouTube, you will find there preachers like Mark Finley, Doug Batchelor, Amazing Facts, The Quiet Hour, and many others. And we have great preachers. Even the chaplain of the White House, Barry Black, is also preaching the gospel message of the Lord, and many others. I did not have photo of Asian preachers, or the ones in South America and so on. These are mostly here in North America. But you see, we are now here in this period, 2021. That is our present time. The true Church of God, the end-time Church of God, was introduced in 1843, and it is said in the Bible that from 1844 and up, Jesus is doing his ministry in heaven. He's judging the people as to who is going to save. and starting from those who already died. And 2021 is where we are right now. But there are three more events that are going to happen. There's going to be a new world order where the Sunday law will be made. There will be legislated to be worshipped as a holiday, and then there will be the close of probation and the 7+ plagues and the return of Jesus Christ. Let me show you here the sequence of events in the last days. There's you know, it's going to start with this climate change because of the so much disasters. They're going to say that we have to have 1 day holiday for the environment because, of course, if there's if not a work day, there are less pollution, less cars traveling, and so on. So we should give it a 1 day holiday for the environment for the meantime, and they will choose Sunday as a day for environment. But eventually, it will become a Sunday law where the worship day will be Sunday also, the same as what happened during the medieval times. And so when the Sunday law comes, then of course, people cannot, it says in the Bible, you cannot buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast. And I'll show you what the mark of the beast is later on. But right now we are in this period of so many disasters that are happening. For those who are reading the Bible, they are not alarmed with these disasters because it says in the Bible that before the close of probation, there will be lots of disasters. We are now in the period of the wrath of Satan. So Satan is causing all these disasters, typhoons, earthquakes, fires all over. It says earthquakes in diverse places. These are all happening. But after this, of course, there's going to be a new world order to say that we will all pray all together. We'll be in one belief so that God will answer our prayer to stop giving us all these disasters. But when that comes, more disasters will even come. Anyway, so the Sunday law will be proclaimed, and because that will be a law that will cause hardship for the people of God. Some of them will be allowed to die, and they will be martyrs for God's cause. And then the the close of probation will be pronounced by God. Jesus will say, those who are righteous, let them remain righteous, and those who are unrighteous, let them remain that way. And you cannot change anymore. If you are in that camp of the one or the other, you will be sealed right there, close of probation, and then the 7 last plagues will come. So right now these disasters, this COVID-19 is part of the wrath of Satan. When the 7 last plagues come, that will be the wrath of God. That will be a reward given to those people who did not accept him. And then, of course, when the 7 last plagues come, then on the 7th plague, somewhere there, Jesus is going to appear in the clouds of heaven to save the people who have obeyed and followed him. Now, so in the end, there will only be 2 camps in this world, 2 groups of people, those who will be saved and those who will not be saved. But the way to determine that is for God to see who in this world recognizes the authority of God and who recognizes the authority of the Antichrist or one who is against God. Now let me just read a couple of or some of these articles here. The papacy say that he has changed the Sabbath to Sunday, that virtually all other churches accepted this new holiday. The papacy claims that Sunday is a holiday is the mark or symbol of his power and authority. So he said the Sunday worship is a symbol of the authority of the papacy. And even this cardinal here, Catholic cardinal, said that the change of Saturday Sabbath to Sunday was because of their authority. But what did God say? God said that my mark or symbol of authority is the 7-day Sabbath, and you can read that. Even in Hebrews, it says that Sabbath was introduced, but people do not obey it because of disobedience, because of unbelief. And if you go to Revelation, it says that Revelation 12:8, it says that the unbelievers will be thrown in the lake of fire. So it's between the authority, obeying which authority you would like to obey the authority of the Antichrist or those against Christ, or the authority of Christ himself. Now, in Revelation, it says here that the sign or the mark of the end time church of God is it would keep the 10 commandments of God, including the 7-day Sabbath, and it will obey the testimony of Jesus Christ. And it also says that right now, from 1844, judgment is in session. God is looking as to who he's going to save, and starting with those people who have already died. But the message that God is giving us, that's why he wants this gospel to be preached to all the world, because he would like all the people to hear about him and to come out from fallen churches, from the churches where the teachings, they're teaching things that Christ did not teach. So Jesus showed us, the Bible showed us these 7 different specifications of where we should go for deliverance, or for us to be, for deliverance anyway, for salvation. The Bible says that the God's people are called into one body or church. Jesus asked those, Jesus said that I have children, I have sheep in other folds, but when they hear my voice, they're going to come out from where they are, and they're going to come to my camp, to my church. Now, how do you know that you are hearing Jesus' voice? For those people who are not in this belief of the teachings, of the truthful teachings of Jesus, when they have the teachings and they verify that it's in the Bible, because the Bible says, if they speak not according to my word, according to this teaching in the Bible, the truth is not in them. So they will come out from where they are, and they will go and join the camp of Jesus. And to join the camp of Jesus, we have to enter into the remnant church through baptism. And God said that, the Bible says that our day is like Noah's time. During the time of Noah, there was only one means of escape that was used for people in order for them to be saved. God always uses one vehicle for salvation in case he would like to destroy a place. During the time of Abraham and Lot, when he decided to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he only used one vehicle of escape. And that one vehicle of escape that he used was Lot. And during the time of Moses, he also used one vehicle, Moses. Whoever went with Moses were the ones that were delivered out of Egypt. And during the time of Noah, he only used one, the ark. Now, in these last days, God is also going to use one vehicle alone, and that is his remnant church, his truth. The truth that came out as one of the reformers that came out in 1843. And if you count 457 BC to 1843, that's 2,300 days, 2,300 years. The Adventist movement, which is the vehicle that Jesus Christ is using now to save people from destruction, that is the vehicle that we should look for, because that is the vehicle that Jesus is going to use to save people from the destruction of sin in this world. So here I've shared with you the signs. The central theme is the everlasting gospel. And according to the Bible, if they speak not according to the Bible, the truth is not in them. So whatever teachings you are receiving from any group, you have to refer to the Bible. If it can stand in the Bible, that is not the teachings from God. So the earth's hour is very late. Jesus' second coming immediately follows the giving of these messages. Come out. The message is come out and all thy house into the ark. Come into this vehicle that God is using to save people. Don't change it. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. So it's only through Jesus Christ. He's actually the vehicle, but he has to use a vehicle on earth that will gather his people in order for them to be saved by him. And this is the 7th last plague that will come after the close of probation. And then Jesus said, is going to come. So Jesus Christ is coming soon. Jesus wants us to change our very nature. Jesus wants to change our heart. Now, Jesus is not like Satan who bullies us, who tries to force himself into us, into our hearts. But Jesus will not push himself into our hearts. He's just knocking at the door. And if we don't let him in, he's not going to come into our hearts. We have to have a desire to invite him before he comes to us. So we should accept Jesus, and we should prepare ourselves to meet him because he promised that he's going to come. And so I invite you, my friends. That is the reason why, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord, and we're going to stay in this vehicle, in this remnant church that God has established on earth to be a means of salvation for those people who would like to be saved. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. And
Thank you very much, Dr. Noel Drias, for that amazing testimony. You know, that was the first time I hear this testimony. Was, I think, the only speaker we have that have the credentials of a friend of celebrities. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so we're here in question and answer, the second part of our program. So first question. You mentioned about your testimony in Japan, that you are the third employees that was sent there. But maybe can you tell us what happened that one year? You know, about sales. What happened? What do you do? Will you tell us about that formula?
no, that's not the formula. The formula is just pray to God, and God will do amazing things. You see, at that time when I went to Japan, it was about in 1970. You cannot see, even when I arrived in Japan, I couldn't see any English sign at all, the airport and so on. So somebody has to meet me with a placard with my name. Otherwise, I will be lost right there. Just to identify, when my manager told me that somebody will meet you with a big placard announcing your name. That's how somebody met me there. And when I was there, it was impossible to do business. You remember, I was a salesman. And how can you sell to the Japanese people when they're English books, sell them to the Japanese people? And I didn't know how to speak Japanese. So I just keep on praying. You see, in Japan, I just try to learn simple words like Ohayo gozaimasu, that's good morning, Gumbawa, good evening, Konnichiwa, good afternoon. And then I learned kuri, 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 that means this. And then thank you, arigato gozaimasu, like that. That's all simple words. You see, when I go to Japan, I just go, we have some some big posters of the books that we were selling. And so the posters have English and Japanese translation in it. So I would knock at the door and I said, "Dusu," and that means please let me in, something like that. And when you go inside, you do not talk business right away. Otherwise, they'll kick you out. You have to sit down with the Japanese, the host of the house. You have to put your feet inside under the table. You have to sit down on the floor because there's some heater under the table. And you have to drink a tea with them. So take the tea. After that, when they start to ask you what your purpose is, and you start showing it. So I just go inside, I knock at the door. Most of the time I was being kicked out. They even get angry. They even want to punch me while I knock at the door, and they say something and I don't understand. I just try to say hi. It means yes, yes. I just keep on saying yes, hi, hi, hi. They let me in, and I open the bag and I just keep on showing them those broadside. But a lot of Japanese homes, they have their parents, the father or mother still living with them. So after showing them all those brochures, I picked out the contract. There's a translation in Japanese there, how much they have to pay, the down payment. I'll give it to the guy. It's already filled up somehow. And he will say, just wait or whatever, do so, means please. He goes inside the room and talk to his father. And sometimes he comes out with a check. That means the father said, yes, you can buy it. They sometimes consult the parents inside their home. So, but it's because of prayer. Sometimes I have to stand by a post and pray, Lord, my family needs to pay the rent. My wife there says, so please help me to make a sale. Please guide me to the right house where I can make a sale. Sometimes I stand on a post and pray. Prayer is the key. So things that are impossible, they become possible with God. Eventually, I found out where the Filipinos were working, the Philippine Embassy, and there's another building there called the Philippine Reparations, where there are people that are working there as recommended by big people in the Philippines, by politicians, and they're working there. And I started to hang around them, and I sold all of them books, and I started hiring also Nisi. You know, Nisi, Nishi. These are the Japanese who somehow know how to speak English. They live in the U.S. or they were born in the U.S. and they went back to Japan. So I placed an advertisement in the newspaper, wanted nieces to be trained with an international company. So they come down and I train them and they start to sell to the Japanese. That's how my operation started to grow when I started hiring some Nishi in Tokyo. But before that, I had a hard time trying to sell. So maybe out of 100 to 200 doors that I would knock, daytime until the evening, I would be kicked out so many times. But out of the 100 or 200, one of them will let me in and buy from me. That is how God answered my prayer, So I didn't really care. So every time I never get discouraged, because when I knock at the door and they kick me out, say, no, they get mad at me. They tell me to go away. I just say, because our commission, if the commission was $300, for example, and I have to knock 100 doors to make a sale. So every time somebody kicks me out, I'm happy, because I said, I just made $3 from you, $3, because I know that within 100 doors, I'll be able to sell one. So I get paid for every door that I knock. That was my philosophy. That's why I never got discouraged. But it was only through the help of God. I was very bold when I was young. I was not afraid of anything. I just go there and work. And even some Japanese would like to punch me sometime. I just smile and nobody ever hit me. And I actually became friends with most of most of the people there. Thank you. Most of the people that I met, I mean.
Amen. Amen. That was a great testimony about sales. Amazing, amazing. Okay, we're moving to our question number 2. You've been married to a beautiful, genius lady, Ati Beth.
Yeah.
My question is, what is the secret of your marriage? If they have some misunderstanding or conflict, so what do you do? What's the secret sauce of your marriage as you stay stronger and better?
Well, I have the inspiration from the Bible is that if you have some disagreement with your spouse, do not let the sun go down. Do not go to bed and sleep without fixing it. So I try to fix it before we go to sleep in the evening. And even if I feel that she's the one at fault, I go down to the lower level, and I always say that I'm sorry if I have done something wrong. I always try to make it my fault, because a problem with marriage is that sometimes if you do not give in and you blame each other, it's because of your fault, and that's why sometimes the disagreement can never be solved. So, I get used to just accepting it's all my fault all the time. And of course, the women like that. They like to feel that they're always right. And that is really my secret. Fill her with kisses and she'll be okay. And then when you go to bed in the evening, you're both happy and you have a nice sleep. And the following day, you're not fighting anymore. Or if she's really mad, if she's really angry and she keeps on talking and I cannot interrupt her, what I do, I dress up and I go out. I just spend some time in the park somewhere or walk around somewhere, and I let some time pass by. So I know that sometime near the evening, she will be wondering why I start to come home. Or maybe not really in the evening, but when I know that several hours have passed, I come home, and if she's still angry, I don't answer. I just keep quiet. And eventually, if she keeps on talking and I'm not answering, eventually she stops talking. When she stops talking, then I say, I'm sorry, I apologize, and then we go on. Like so, we've been together now for about 55 years, and we're happy that. And she helped me. Whatever I do, she's always helping me. She's always assisting me and everything.
That's a secret sauce. You know, our friends right now is listening. We should take notes for those secret sauce and marriage. Thank you for sharing for us. Another third questions for you. Another question. What is the motivations for you that you have successful children, growing children? One question is how do you motivate your daughter? First, your eldest daughter became a doctor of medicine.
Uh, I always, when she was born, I always wanted her to go into medicine. So even as a kid, somehow I sort of maybe brainwashed her or something. Because even as a kid, I tried to buy toys that are equipments of some doctors. As a young kid, I let her play with things like the stethoscope or some dolls that she can pretend that she's trying to give to cure or something. And I always tell her, and in the morning when we wake up, when she gets out of bed and she comes out, I'll say, oh, here is Dr. Frias, Dr. Gladys Frias. I would call her a doctor even at a young age. So all this, calling her a doctor, always telling her that she should be a doctor. And we tell her that when you become a doctor, we want you to become a doctor so you can take care of us when we grow old. When we grow old, we'll get sick and you will be taking care of us. So by always injecting that in her mind, eventually that's the course that she decided to take, and she became a doctor. And I did not do it anymore with the other two. That's probably why they didn't become a doctor, and so on. So, but that's how she became a doctor.
Wow. Wow, that was nice. That was nice. Okay. And that's a great answer. Another one, Doc, I think God, you're so special because God give you a second life. You've been having a heart attack. And what are you gonna say about those people that they have been on that attack also? So what, any inspiring words for those people that are sick?
The inspiring words is that you have to think positive. See, when people get sick, they think that they're gonna die or something. No, I never entertained that idea. I want to live. As a matter of fact, my prayer to the Lord is, I don't want to taste death. I said, Lord, please come while I'm alive. And because if I'm with you, I will not die anymore. I don't want to taste death. So I refuse to die. At the time when you see, there was a miracle also. I don't know if I have the time to tell the story, but when I was in the hospital, after about a week or 10 days, one morning I woke up and I felt very strong because I remember I was always lying down and I was talking to God. I said, if you get me out of this situation, if I go back to my normal health again, I'm just going to work for you. I will not work for anyone else anymore. You will be my employer. Do not pay me with money, but I only ask you for good health because I would like to live long. I have a fear of death. So that's my prayer. And so I was there in the hospital bed, and one morning I woke up and I felt very strong. So I called the nurse and said, because I had all kinds of tubes in my mouth and my nose. So I said, can you please remove all of this? Because I feel strong. I don't feel like I had a heart attack anymore. But the nurse said, no, you cannot, I cannot do that. And it happened to be a Sunday. So she wouldn't remove it. So what I did, that the stand for all those tubes that are connected to me, I took it and I felt energized at that morning, and I started walking back and forth the whole way in the hospital. So the nurses were telling me, why don't you just go to your room because you're causing some what you call that, you're making it hard for us. And so on, with walking back and forth there, and you're supposed to be there resting because they cannot make me stop walking because I felt I had a lot of energy. They called the doctor, Dr. Tettelbaum, and he came down and looked at me and said, "You should not be doing this." I said, "But I felt strong. I felt that I'm not sick." So he said, "Okay." He took me to the lab. I'm sorry? Took me to the lab and took me to the treadmill. And he started to test me, the treadmill. When he tested me, I almost broke the treadmill because he would make it faster. He said, "Do you have any pain?" "No." "Faster, faster." And I was already running the treadmill. I was not getting tired. So the doctor said, this is a miracle, he said. I mean, and then he checked my blood. There's no more trace of heart attack. Although the first time when it happened, I had 3 specialists who were there. My brother-in-law, Dr. Poblete, he was a cardiologist, and the one who was there in the hospital intern, and the other specialist also. 3 cardiologists, And let me tell you what happened when I had a heart attack. They told me, "Noel, you said you had a heart attack," and I said, how do we fix it? They said, we have to give you you have to go through surgery. I said, "Why?" "Because surgery, there's about 98 to 100% success." I didn't want to have any surgery. I said, "Is there another way?" They thought, no, that's the only one we can recommend to you. So I said, "Think, there might be another way." So they said, "There's another way that we can do for you, but the chances are 50-50, he said. 50-50. We have to administer this drug called streptokinase to you. Streptokinase. And I said, "But that will do, it might give you brain, what you call, huh? Yeah, brain hemorrhage," he said. "You might have brain hemorrhage and you could die. But if you're lucky, you could live. But the chances are 50-50. And I thought, at the time I said, if I'm going to test God, if God really loves me and he'll make me live, it's up to him. So I prayed to God, "Lord, I'm going to take this 50-50. If you want me to live, I will work for you. If you want me to die, please help me. Just make sure that I will be saved when you come." So I called my wife and I told my wife, I've been confessing my sins to her. I told her most of the miracle sins, but I didn't tell her the saints. No, I don't know what I mean. I did not really made specific mention of different sins, because I was very worldly also at the time. When I was in business, anyway, we were always out with non-believers. Anyway, so I said, my wife was crying. I said, "I'm gonna go." So I told the doctor, "I'm gonna take that drug." So he gave me that drug. And for about 3 to 4 days, I was shaking, and they have to put machine on me because they have to calm it down because my heart was beating always over 100 beats per minute. So they have to try to lower it. Otherwise, I could die. I felt like my heart was going to jump out. So that was my condition in the first few days in the hospital. But I told you, after about 10 days, I felt very strong, and I was walking around there. So the doctor tested me, and I almost broke the treadmill. After that, he put me in that machine. What do you call that machine where your whole body has to be checked? The X-ray, the MRI. Yes, took me there, and he did all kinds of tests on me, and he was so surprised. He said, "Even your blood, it did not have a trace of heart attack anymore." So he said, "I will come back tomorrow and I will release you, but you have to wear a Holter monitor. Wear it for about a month, and we can monitor you even if you're at home." So the following day he came back, and he let me go home, but he said, "Just be careful," and I was wearing that monitor. I cannot include all of those in my story, but that's what happened. And then I told you, after I removed the monitor, we went to Israel. So a lot of miracles happened to me, a lot of miracles. And my parents were even telling me a story also that when I was young, you see, in the Philippines, there's always a typhoon, and they were living in some houses that are weak. So one time there was a big typhoon. I was a baby, and the house that they were staying at, it turned upside down. So they had to run away together with some of their neighbors whose houses were also destroyed by the storm. And they were crossing a river. My mother was small, and she was holding me as a baby, and they were crossing a river. About the water was about up to the chest, and but the current was, strong. And my mother happened to let go of me. I mean, she was holding me, but they had to let go. So my father shouted right away. So they circled around, and they tried to look for me under the water, and they found me. Somebody found me, held me in my legs, and raised me up. So I lived. See, that's one of the miracles. And I can mention a few more, but maybe we don't have the time. So I think I live a very miraculous life. That's why I'm very thankful to the Lord. Now I went through surgery and I went to the heart attack, but I never had any surgery in my body at all. Nothing was cut here for anything. See? But now I don't even feel I have any heart problem. I mean, I walk and I do treadmill and yeah, do the normal thing. I feel I'm stronger now than when I was about 30 years old. Because when I was 30, I was not sleeping well. I was always out. Between 30 and 40, I was always out partying and so on. That's what happened.
Wow. That's a great testimony you have delivered.